What's going on, everybody? So I wanted to make a tier list specifically for support for season 3. Um, we're well into season 3 at this point. I have done some tier lists in the past, and I feel like they have changed between seasons, specifically between season 1 and 2. But season 3 does feel a little different to me on the support role. The top tier, S tier, doesn't feel too different. I still feel like Anna, Kiriko, still kind of reigns supreme at the top. I don't really feel like that's changed too much. Anna's still top tier for a number of reasons. Her stun with the sleep is still super powerful. Her anti-nade still super powerful. And going along with those two reasons, that's what makes Kiriko super powerful, even after her nerf to her healing output speed. Her cleanse still puts her at S tier. If there is an Anna, and if she's being oppressive with the antis, Kiriko is still needed for that. On top of that, Kiriko's mobility still, in my opinion, for the most part, outside of Lucio, dominates the support class. I don't really think there's anything quite like her mobility in the game, and because of that, coupled into her burst damage with the headshots, assuming you're landing them, makes her a very powerful support. So, those are your top two. After that, if you're up against a team that's not running Ana, and your team really needs some strong heals, I feel like Moira is fairly strong right now, and I want to put her at B tier. And I would almost say like a B plus to A minus. She kind of, in the right situations, she can be probably at her strongest, I feel like, ever since she's been put in the game. And that's talking up into upper tier masters. However, I still feel like Anna and Kiriko keep her at probably at a B tier. Because if there is an Anna and she's anti-nading, you need the Kiriko. But again, without the Anna on the game, I think Moira can probably start pushing people into low tier masters, and I don't really feel like I've ever been able to say that in Overwatch before. I always kind of felt like Moira would get you probably into low tier diamond, and then that's where you'd probably start dropping off unless you got some lucky games that went your way. But now I kind of feel like Moira might get you into low tier masters, which is a whole rank up. So that's why I kind of want to say B plus to A minus range. She can be pretty strong. Mercy, I put at A tier. She's very reliant on what your DPS are doing, and because of the Anna Kiriko dynamic, I feel like Mercy is a notch below those two. However, if you've got good snipers on your team, and the rezzing capability, I feel like even after her movement nerf, it's not that big of a deal to what I've seen. Maybe the people that play Mercy a lot more than I do might say otherwise, but I haven't really. I feel like I still see plenty of Mercies in my upper tier lobbies. Damage boost is still something heavily needed, especially against certain team comps. When you're going up against a pocketed Pharah Echo combination, Mercy is still pretty vital in the Overwatch support role. Definitely a good hero to be good at. The only thing I would say is know when to play her and know when to move on to a different hero. I feel like you're really reliant on what your DPS are playing when you're playing Mercy. I don't advocate one-tricking her, but I do advocate being comfortable playing her. And if you are a one-trick Mercy, Highly recommend maybe adapting to Kiriko, and I feel like if you probably are a one trick Mercy, you probably are already kind of good with Moira, because I feel like a lot of Mercies play Moira. But I feel like Kiriko would be the next hero for a Mercy player to maybe start adapting into their hero pool. And that goes into Baptiste. I feel like Baptiste could be A tier, kind of fitting into Mercy, into the Mercy dynamic. If Anna Kiriko, if that dynamic doesn't exist, I feel like Baptiste and Mercy could be a really potent support combination. I saw it in a game last night and it worked really well, and I actually kind of want to experiment a little bit more with that, but it's got to be under the right circumstances again, because when those antis start coming in, you're going to want the cleanse. If you're being dove by, let's say, a Hammond's pretty popular these days, you're going to want that sleep dart. You're going to want some peels for your Anna. But I feel like Lamp with Res can be a pretty potent combination. And I also feel like if you're running the right DPS and tank comp to take advantage of Baptiste windows, you can get some. And then on top of that, with a Mercy damage boost on top, there's some pretty potent combinations that can be created from that. But again, it's got to be under the right circumstances. So, but it's one to maybe keep in the back of your mind and maybe suggest when you're not really seeing the Annas coming at you. And surprisingly, I've been getting a lot of games where there hasn't been an Anna in the lobby, and I feel like Kiriko cleanses are really deterring the Annas. Which is kind of a refreshing thing for me. I kind of like to see that, but yeah, something to consider for a different kind of support lineup. So that leads me into a segue into Brig, and I'm going to put Brig into B tier right now for the simple fact that there are a lot of Hammonds rolling around out there these days, and Brig against Hammond is strong. However, I kind of want to say Brig's kind of in that B- C+ range right now. And the reason for that being is because if your team is rolling a Hammond, and if you're in the DPS lineup and you go like, let's say Genji or Tracer or Pharah, you can beat up a Brig pretty easily with coordination. As long as you're coordinating the dive correctly, then Brig doesn't stand a chance. But if the dive is not coordinated, I kind of like Brig against Hammond or Winston or Diva, kind of in those solo circumstances where they can kind of peel and keep the Anna going, kind of as a bodyguard kind of a lineup. It's something to consider. It's I would still kind of like to see Brig's ultimate get completely changed, and I guess that's going to be happening next season. I thought that it was going to come in season 3, but lo and behold, we're in season 3, nothing yet. So season 4, look for the Brig ult change. No word on what that'll actually be yet, but her armor pack had been buffed going into season 3, and it does immediate healing of, I believe it's 25 HP, which I found it kind of does actually make a difference. It does help her kit, but she can still only run against dive. So I don't advocate one-tricking Brig. I don't advocate even necessarily coming out of the gate as Brig. But I think she's definitely in a position now where if dive starts beating your team up, or if your team starts fighting in Winston bubbles and that Winston shield doesn't go down, Brig could be a realistic option for trying to get some heals within the Winston shield, or trying to counteract some dive, trying to keep your Anna going against the dive. I feel like she's in a pretty good spot for that now. Which goes into Lucio, which I feel like Lucio's in a kind of a weak spot right now. Lucio's not completely unplayable, which means he's not in D tier. However, I've tried playing some Lucio, and I feel like I'm just not outputting enough heals, and there's not enough team comps out there right now that are common that need the speed boost. You see enough Junker Queens out there that supplies some speed boost in itself. You've got Hammonds rolling around quite a bit these days. He doesn't need a speed boost. And your team's probably going to need extra healing, maybe more specific healing. So Lucio doesn't fit in there. Lucio doesn't never really fit in too great with the Winstons and the Divas of the world. So, and now with Roadhog basically being borderline unplayable, Roadhog doesn't, he would maybe need speed, but he's not really floating around out there anymore. So that really leaves you with Orisa, Sigma, and Reinhardt. And Ryan can use speed. I suppose Ramatra as well. Zarya, I feel like she takes too much damage to quantify the Lucio's speed boost, although you can definitely make that combo work, because I almost forgot Zarya. But it's very situational. I don't think that's one you would necessarily want to come out of the gate with, but you can maybe make it work. Doomfist can sometimes work with the Lucio, but I'm starting to feel like there's better supports out there for him than Lucio. So that basically, like I said, leaves you with the Reinhardts, the Sigmas, and the Orisas. Orisa kind of works with it because she does have some mobility, but it's mostly her utility in its current state is more survivability to armor. So the healing doesn't necessarily need to be there quite as strongly as some of the other tanks, which kind of might make Lucio work. The problem with Lucio, though, is I just feel like he's not doing enough healing these days. I feel like his healing output is very low. I've tried playing him with a Reinhardt quite a bit over the last weekend, and I just felt like my Rein just needed more healing than I could do on Lucio, and the speeding around wasn't beneficial enough to warrant the pick. So ultimately, what I would suggest, if you want Lucio to be a relatively normal pick for you, is consider what the enemy team is running and if it needs a Lucio beat drop to counter it. So Nanoblade, Sigma ults, Bastion ults, Ramatra ults, Zarya ults, Sojourn maybe, maybe a Torb, heroes like that, that might need a defensive support ult. That's when you would want to start considering Lucio. But at the moment, I feel like Lucio might be one of the weaker supports to be right now. And it's situational because I definitely don't advocate playing Brig over Lucio on a normal basis. But what you're seeing in a lot of Season 3 games might make Brig a more valuable pick. Which I wasn't really expecting to say until Brig got her ult change. But here we are. So, and then last but not least, we've got Zenyatta. Now, Zenyatta, I kind of feel like is floating around the Lucio category to some extent. A lot of it's going to depend on what map you're playing, what the enemy team is running, and how good are you with your aim, and how good are your DPS and tanks at shooting whatever you're putting the Discord orb on. I'm going to put him at B tier, though, primarily because he can dish out a fair bit of damage, and if your team is coordinated with the Discord orbs, I feel he squeaks out above Lucio, and I would even probably say, okay, there we go. I would say he does rank above Brig, except for in those dive scenarios that I pointed out. But if you are going up against a team that's running a Winston, and I like using Winston as an example because this is one that I find comes up a lot for me. When the Winston bubble goes down, but the shield's not breaking and people are fighting inside of it, and I'm struggling to heal them because Kiriko can't heal inside of it, Anna can't heal inside of it. Bap and Moira can't heal inside of it too easily. That's where the Zens, the Mercies, the Briggs, and the Lucios kind of start shining to some degree. But I feel like Zen Brig can be a good counteraction to Winston depending on what scenario you're up against. Is the Winston diving in but not necessarily diving you, then you might be able to pull out the Zen. If he's diving you, then you might want to go Brig or Mercy. Mobility wise, you might be able to fly away or stay away from him. Brig, if you want to get a little bit more brawly and fight him and have your team kind of convene to you. Lucio can maybe work if you want to run away and just kind of wall ride all over the place. But that's been a scenario I've been running into a fair bit lately as well. So going into another team comp that I wanted to talk about just a little bit, because Ramatra's ult changed, is do you want to use defensive ults to counteract a Ramatra? And I still say yes, you do. So that kind of allows Lucio and Zen to be effective against Ramatra. And if you are running the Ramatra, I still say Kiriko ult Ramatra. These were questions that were sent to me that I just wanted to cover right at the end of this. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this tier list. Do you like it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would you make it if you do disagree? Is there anything that I kind of missed in this that you would like me to cover maybe in the comments section below? Let me know. But this would be my tier list for the beginning of Season 3 as it stands right now. So thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.